I was the first one didn't do it. Please, commissioners, turn your mics on. It's really, when you're sitting here, it's hard to know if you've got it on or not, but on our video, we tend, when we don't have it on, you're not heard. And especially if anyone in the back, if you want to speak, please come to the podium, because you are definitely not heard if you're not at the mic. Are we ready? Got that done? All right. We will now recognize Chairman Horner of the Jail Study Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, let me say that again. Justice Center Jail Project Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'll call the Justice Center Public Safety Committee to order. Anyone wishing to address this committee may do so at this time. You'll have 3 minutes. Seeing none, item 3A, there's no old business. Item 4A, Justice Center Project Update, Tony Pettit, Burwell Construction.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We got the real live thing outside that you can now see. It's pretty cool looking. And I told some folks back here in the back, the best thing about that whole thing is now that the crane we see here. Am I supposed to operate this now? Okay, good.
You can.
I really don't want to. Okay. But the crane's moved to the back of the project, which means that the front of the project that's shown here can now progress, because that's really our critical path from here out to the completion. So as we scroll through, is anybody got any questions so far about what we've seen here while we're waiting on the meeting to start? I can explain some of it. That's the back. Now the crane's back there. For example, that hole that's left out, that crane could not reach it from where it sits in this picture, because it weighed like 35,000 pounds for that one panel. So it had to walk back.
When you look at that picture, what's that white stuff in that?
The white stuff is precast concrete.
Thank you. Oh, precast, so.
Yeah, well, it is all precast, so it's cast with, you have some panels that's cast with brick.
Okay.
And really, that's a pretty neat process, because they go in, there's folks that just put those brick in. The forms over in South Carolina, and it may be in Kentucky, but South Carolina. But anyway, they put those brick, it's Alabama, thank you. I'm used to them coming from, but they put them in the forms and cast it face down. So when they pick it up, the brick looks like it's already laid. Now what you're seeing, they'll go back and clean that brick up. So if you've seen any splotchy parts in it, don't be alarmed, because we've already had that discussion. So that's precast, and then even the fake windows there are precast.
Okay.
Let's see if I can go back to another picture. So this is kind of a good shot of the roof, and you see the beams on top of this end, and the far end's got the parapet wall up. Yeah, right there and right here, and then there'll be one here. That is your open rec yards on your top floor. So if you're going to go to jail, that's the floor you want to be on, because you can look up and see the sky. That is the elevator pits that's coming up to the Justice Center here. And like I said, this crane's now moved around to the back, which coming up the road today, I looked and saw the crane up there from 5.5 miles down 11 E. So it's a pretty tall crane. This is your porte cochere, Sally Port rather, coming in here. Your judges will drive and park down here, and then this is an entrance, a secure area for the judges. And then this is your, again, your Justice Center. And now that the crane's out of the way, you'll start seeing progress on the project on the critical path part. Any other questions about the photos? And we'll still get to see the front progress for a while, but it's going to look like it really slowed down once we get all those precast panels, because there's a lot of work still going on inside the detention area. The current contract amount through change order number 13, and Commissioner Huntsman, I don't have a change order today. The current contract is $93,190,455.16. Billed through the end of July. This is all through the end of July, the progress payments. Billed through the end of July is $56,793,938.16. This invoice includes $10,135,500 worth of stored materials, either on-site or off-site. So, currently billed with stored materials, it's 61% money spent. Current installed work, not counting stored materials, is $46,658,438, and we're right at 50% complete. So that's great. CMU masonry, the block masonry, there's no brick, hand-laid brick yet. But the block is 62% complete. Precast in place is about 46% complete. The Justice Center foundations, they went ahead and kind of tried to surround that crane as best they could. It's right at 10% complete, somewhere like that. Now it'll start progressing. HVAC work, the rough end stuff is 48 to 52%. Plumbing works 40 to 50%. A lot of underground plumbing been installed already in the back of the cells and stuff. And the electrical is about 48, 52% complete. They've set the chillers. I don't know whether they show up on our I thought they're just off camera here. They're set down in the hole. They're still wrapped up in their package, but it's good to have them with the supply chain issues we have. That's all I have, unless you have questions.
Mr. Pettit, are you're comfortable with the time frame of the finished product?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're going to discuss in September, because we're still trying to settle this out. There's going to be a time extension, because I've added up those change orders, and how much those change orders are, and how much it relates to those micropiles. Remember, we talked about micropiles and slugged it out and everything on the micropiles. So, change orders to date, and some of you are painfully aware of this, is $981,500, somewhere right in there. Of that, almost $500,000 is in micropiles. That's a substantial add to the project. That has caused a delay in the project. We're in negotiation with and it's almost concluded. I'm wanting to present that next month when it is concluded, and let you have a chance to ask questions. I want to present it, but we're in negotiations of trying to settle that time extension and the cost of that. So with that time extension, this project's probably going to be done about this time next year, a little earlier, substantially complete. The contractor will probably still be on site, and we'll be certifying, and the jail staff will be moving in, setting up, and having their plans in place. Can I ask your question?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we need to stop using the term May 2024.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's going to be substantially complete in August, and I think it's going to take about 60 days to get operational. They've got the jail staff has got a committee set up. They meet, I think, every Wednesday. I've been to a couple of those meetings, met with the architect to help them coach their way and to make sure we got everything in place to ready to go a year from now. So we'll see some more proposal request in for furniture and fittings and equipment in the next couple of months.
Mr. Pettit, you referred to supply chain difficulties. Supply chain difficulties. What kind of difficulties are you having with that?
We are working our way out of them. We had earlier on trying to get grout, trying to get concrete poured, but the contractor has done an excellent job of that. And the architect's working hand in glove, trying to make sure that the materials specified are more readily available. But if you were to start today on a smaller project, you would hear things like the switchgear takes 52 weeks to get. So you have a small project that usually takes 7 months to construct. You really can't have it in 7 months because it takes so long to get the switchgear, which is an electrical component that powers everything. So we're kind of out of the woods on that. There's nothing popped its head up that's really, you know, this morning we had a meeting on elevators to make sure they're going to be here when they need to be here. So we're working those issues out. But we're in good shape.
One more question. You spoke about negotiations on the time spans and so forth, and you may not be able to answer this, and I apologize if I've caught you and it's the wrong one. Will that be the one that the contract and the attorney that the commission hired to take care of that? Will
Yeah,
that be who's negotiating that?
We have clutched the attorney in, they've written a memo in, and we've taken that memo as part of our negotiations to drive that number down. And we, you know, it wasn't a zero, but it's a lot better than where it started. And I can tell you, it could start at $250,000, and we're way down from that. But there will be some cost. And it's basically the grout, the excessive grout when they grouted those micropiles. You've heard me talk about that before. Through those $500,000 worth of change orders that we had on the foundations, you know, they just went everywhere. But it also took time, and that time equates to, I think, 10 weeks. They think 11 weeks, and time's money. So we've been trying to drive at that. So I'll be ready to present that in September meeting.
I apologize, but you brought up something else I want to touch base on.
Okay.
Some of those change orders were like, and let me give you an example, like the door hinges and the doorknobs that I thought was plumb foolish for somebody to miss.
Security.
Will that be included in that? Or that it wasn't even in the drawings?
Now that brings up a good point. We're at the 50% mark. So we told the designer that we would like to sit down and discuss it, 25%, 50%, 75%, and the completion of the job, just so it won't fester so long. And we're at the time now to where we need to set a meeting up. Now that we're 50% billed, it's time to set up a meeting with the designer and discuss those issues we've been talking about. Part of those change orders, which is the other $400,000 of the change orders. So it's time to have that discussion.
They weren't cheap. They need to take care of that problem.
Nothing's cheap. So there's some issues that, you know, they've already acquiesced to the thing. We had pipe that we had to replace, and you know, they agreed to a few things, and it's worth a discussion. So
For someone that had supposedly drew jails, they missed things that I can't see anyone missing, to be rudely, and 100,000 is not chicken feed.
any other questions?
No? Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Horner of the Justice Center project. We will now move to the Finance Committee, and I will call on Chairman Hall.
Call the Finance Committee to order. Anyone wishing to address this committee, you may do so at this time. You have 3 minutes.
If I may interject real quick, Chairman Hahn, that if there are several to speak tonight in the Finance Committee, we have a 15-minute limit, so you might want to take that into consideration if you've got several that would like to speak tonight.
Gwen Holden, 8150 West Point Drive. I want to talk on number number 5 on A, wheel tax resolution. I want roads fixed, but I don't think we need to have a wheel tax increase. That's why I'm wearing this shirt tonight. That's the way I feel about it. You give money everywhere else, sheriff's department, school department, but you can't give money on roads. And you know, you talk about the jail being dilapidated and bad for the prisoners. What about the people that get up and go to work every day on these roads? And their wheel alignment being knocked out and they have to go and fix it, or their tar gets busted. What about people that get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and go to work? Do we not pay? We pay our taxes. Can't we get our roads fixed? That's all we're asking for. Please, without a wheel tax increase. You know, they said that they were going to fix the roads with the first wheel tax. Forget that. It wasn't designated for that. So you're going to stand up here and tell me, or say to me, that that $23 increase is going to be for the roads when you can turn around and change your mind? I don't think so. Please do something about the roads. That's all I want.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Linda Noe, 2343 Joe Stevens Road. I want to again recite the history of the wheel tax. April 2002, voters, taxpayers, citizens, pick your poison. It's either a wheel tax or a property tax increase, Commission Chairman Maudie Briggs says. And in May 2002, the voters, I'm sure not happily, but they picked their poison, which was a wheel tax instead of a property tax. But guess what? August 2002, the commission said, oh, we're going to give you a second dose of a poison. You picked yours, now we're going to pick another one for you. And the property tax went up 15 cents 3 months after the referendum. And I think that gets a little bit into what the public is looking at. And I'm hearing more and more people realizing, wait, I hear that there is a plan, and it was Commissioner Howell that brought it out, that says we could actually approve more money for paving without a wheel tax. Just do exactly what Mayor Britton did. You liked that when he pulled property tax from the schools, put it in the jail, substituted sales tax. And you could do that again and not burden the taxpayers with a wheel tax. In fact, you would have probably about 800,000 more without a wheel tax. What are we debating? When will you please look at these options? Think about the people that voted for you and do what's right for them. Don't vote for a wheel tax this year. The sales tax is shooting through the roof. If you will go and get the reports from Mr. Long, from the city, as I've done, you'll find out it's going to be astronomical next year. It's already exceeded what Mr. Britton presented, and it's going to be astronomical with all the new businesses. So wait and do your recalculation next year. No wheel tax.
Thank you for your comments, Ms.
You're
Knight.
very welcome.
Anyone else wish to speak? Thank you. We'll move on down to recurring business. You have your expenditure reports and your monthly checks. And as always, you can look at those if you haven't already. They're in your folders. No old business. We move down to new business. Item 5A, wheel tax resolution. First vote, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your packet is the wheel tax resolution that requires 2/3 vote in 2 successive regularly scheduled county commission meetings. Calls for a $23 increase to the wheel tax from $27 to $50. And the one change that was made from a couple of months ago to today is that implementation would be in December. Having talked to the Department of Revenue in Nashville, and Ms. Henderson, the county clerk, said to get the postcards with the correct amount on it, we'd have to delay it till implementation till December. So that would be the implementation, and I think it's reflected in the resolution. So, Mr. Chairman, everything else is the same in the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution 23 dash whatever wheel tax increase of $23. I'll put that in form of a motion.
Mr. Doty with a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second, Mr. Richardson. Do we have any discussion?
I'd like to, even though, we've already made these motions. I have looked at Ms. Howell's proposals. I've looked them over very stringently, and I've voiced my opinion on those at each meeting. The money that they're talking about comes from extra revenue dollars that go to the school system that the school system has told they use for special projects. They use to replace air conditioner units, major expenses that they don't have to come to the commission for. Yes, we could withhold that money and put it towards the roads. But in doing so, we then have to replace that money because the school system is still going to have those expenses that we're going to have to pay. So we would have to come up with that revenue from somewhere. It's not just that don't replace the heat pump, don't fix the plumbing, don't do those things. If we pull that money out of there that they're using for that, then we've got to come up with it. And they will be coming to us on a regular basis at that point, requesting. And as far as the wheel tax, yes, people don't want a tax increase. I don't want a tax increase. But we have to pay for roads in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And this is not going to be a fix-all. This is not going to pave every road in Hamblen County. This is going to make a start. It won't even really put a good dent in the amount that it will take. Mr. Poole is here. I think he can back us on this. Over 400 miles of road for county, and a cost of $300,000 per mile. That's $120 million. We have to make a dent somewhere, and we have to have something that is annually recurring so that Mr. Poole can plan as to where to go with it. We can add additional funds as we have them, and we're going to need to add those funds if we're going to make any type of headway. But we have to give him something that he can plan on, and this is where we're going to go, and if we have extra, then he can do more. And that's my position and why I made the motion for it.
Thank you, Mr. Doty. Anyone else?
Commissioner Hahn.
Yes, Ms. Green.
I'd like to say, and first of all, the mayor's plan to change the sales tax, to change the property taxes with the sales tax by the figures that were in our packet have more than exceeded what we are required to do as a county each year. And I don't remember the exact figure, but there's a good slush fund there for exactly what he's talking about without the other money. We are not leaving them empty. We have more than took care of our citizens and our children. And to tell you the truth, they've got a slush fund there that should not be. We have a requirement, but we have more than met that requirement. If I remember correctly, 20, 21, 22, and 23. Ms. Howe's plan would not affect that in any shape, form, or manner by the figures that the school has presented. I'm going by what they actually showed the figures. I'm not going by what I think, I'm going by what they gave us. And if they're wrong, they gave us the wrong numbers, and I don't think they did by the conversations I've had with those folks.
Thank you. Anyone else have a comment or a question?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Richardson.
the school board has come to us and told us that the average age of their school system is like 56 years old. Is that, so average age is 56 years. I was at a road commission meeting previously. We've got roads that haven't been paved in over 20 years. Is that correct, Mr. Poole? So this is an option that we can generate some reoccurring funds, and we as a group have sent a memo of understanding through committee and passed it through commission last month. Am I correct at that?
That's right.
That we as a group agree to spend this wheel tax for the roads. So we're not going to send it to the school or general fund or whatever. We have agreed as a body and as on our word and honor that we will do that. So I think this is one way to do a reoccurring fee to pay for our roads. And if we have anything extra, we can send it downstream as well. That's my point.
Thank you, Commissioner Richardson. Anyone else?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, Ms. Howe.
Thank you. I sort of feel like there's money there. We've met the obligation of what the school wanted, and they have glitches, but didn't we just borrow some money off of ourselves that we're going to pay later for another project? And couldn't we, without this burden? And I don't believe it's going to generate that kind of income to get 5 miles done. And I just think that it is an extra burden on citizens, and I think there's another way to go about it, and sales tax has increased. And golly, I appreciate the mayor, being conservative, and then when it comes in, by golly, we're blessed, and let's use that blessing for paving. That's my opinion. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Howe. Mr. Cutshaw.
Along these lines that everybody's talking, one thing, if we move property tax, it goes to our general fund. It's not designated for roads. That's one thing. And we're grateful that our mayor has been conservative in his figures, but what that allows also is latitude in our next budget season, that we have something to work with to keep from raising a property tax, hopefully. I can't say, I don't have a crystal ball what's coming, but what we do have is options. If we remove this option, we don't have that next year. We don't have the crystal ball of what sales tax will be next year and how we replace that. That's why I support moving forward with this. It's a drop in the bucket of, as Commissioner Doty had said, it's a drop in the bucket of what we actually need. But it is a recurring fund that we can use for roads without damaging a future option to prevent a property tax.
Thank you. Mr. Neesmith.
Did I just hear you say that that money will go in, on wheel tax will go in the general fund?
No, sir, I did not
What
say
did you
that.
say about general fund?
I said that if we moved property tax from the school system, that money would go to the general fund, and we would have to designate it out of the general fund to such. It doesn't go to,
Can't take it direct out of school and go to roads?
I don't think you can. Oh, you,
You
Mayor
did the
said
jail.
yes.
I just wonder why you can do one, you can't do the other.
sorry, I misspoke. I'm getting a
didn't get
nod
it
that you
right.
can.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else need to speak?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Long?
when you look at this, I know there's sour taste in a lot of people's mouth about what happened years ago. This is a totally different commission. That tax they put back in was not for roads. It went to the school system back then. It was not designated for roads whatsoever. So when you look at this, I know it's a drop in the bucket, but $23 is a Coca-Cola or a glass of tea that you spend each month at a restaurant. $23 divided by 12, just figure it up. It's a drop in the bucket for us to start with, but we got to start somewhere. And I think it's a more fair tax. It's the fairest tax I think that you can come up with.
Would you tell me what restaurant you can buy a glass of tea for $1.90?
Well, I'm saying a glass
I
of tea is
understand.
almost $3, so,
Yes.
you know.
Anyone else? Okay.
Chairman?
Yes,
Just
Mr.
to
Horn.
add that, I mean, you've got cars lined up every morning paying $8 for a cup of coffee. I mean, it's crazy. And they probably spent more on the T-shirts than they will than they would have paid for the tax, so.
Thank you.
That's my opinion.
Anyone else? Your opinions are cherished. Okay, I see no one else, so we will take a vote.
One thing, Chairman Hahn, also coming out of committee, this is just a simple majority vote. I just want to make sure everybody understood that. The mayor alluded that we have to have 2/3 in our commission meeting in two different meetings, but coming out of committee meeting, it is a simple majority.
Thank you for clarifying that. I was going to bring that up. All right, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No?
No.
Motion passes. Move down to item
She's not on the
5B,
committee.
interlocal cooperative agreement for county school resource officer. Funding between the city of Morristown, Tennessee and Hamblen County. Mr. Mayor.
The next two items on the agenda deal with our SRO program, and before we deal with those, I want to ask the sheriff, if you or Captain Cribble to give an update on the SRO program and how it's going.
It's going real well. A lot to get in place, but we're almost there. We've got 14 people going, 12 schools covered, because we've got 2 per high school. So 12 schools covered now. Starting next week, the ones that have been job shadowed on the experienced SROs are going to be moving over to their prospective schools. And then we're still in the hiring process, trying to get post-certified folks in to finish filling those slots. But as of right now, going pretty well for the time frame that we had.
Did we ever hear, I know I've asked you this before, on the multi-school campuses?
Yeah, so going back and forth with the state, that's probably not gonna be a thing this year. Next year, hopefully so, but who knows? It's not just a problem here either, it's across the state.
Sure.
Where they've done these school identifier numbers, so we'll see, hopefully so, but if not, then we'll address it next year.
Thank you for your hard work.
Mr. Hall, can I ask him a question?
Let's get it on the table first, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, on item B, it's the interlocal agreement with the city of Morristown where the city council has approved funding the county $150,000 for each of the next 2 years to help offset the startup costs of the SRO programs. That'd be equipping the officers, training them, just getting the program off the ground, vehicles as well. We submitted a budget just like we submitted it to you, and so City Council has approved funding $150,000 a year for each of the next 2 years. So that's what this interlocal agreement is about.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Mr. Harville, do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Long, any discussion? Any questions?
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Oh, Ms. Howe.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Hunt. I would like that gentleman to, I want to ask about this.
Captain
So the SRO officers don't start in the jail. They just say, I'll do this.
That's right. So far, everybody that we've hired or moved within the department were post-certified except for 2 people. So they're already been to police academy. That's a $5,000 per person savings that we've got on those folks because they've already been to the police academy. We don't have to fund that. So at this point, 12 of the 14 have already done that.
Wow.
That's why we were hoping for post-certified applicants, but we're coming to a point now where we're going to have to start hiring without them being post-certified and send them to the academy.
Okay. Would you explain to us, now, what happens when, on May 25th, when they're all out of school, what does our SRO, what's his?
So, great question. The way we're going to do it, year one, is any county holiday that we're off and county government's off, those SROs will be off. If it's a 2-week Christmas break where we're only off 2.5 days, then those folks are going to come in and utilize that time for their FTO hours, which means field training office hours where we get them spun up, trained up within in-house stuff, that's beyond the SRO stuff that we have to do to qualify them to continue to be post-certified officers and SROs. Year one is going to be a lot of training for them just because we have to get those hours into post and get them approved. So we're going to use those times off for that to do that.
All right, thank you. And we're working on that getting them
Auto tagging.
Patrol car,
Patrol car?
are we?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you don't even want to start that conversation.
I don't want to start that.
Yeah.
Commissioner Hahn?
Yes,
one
Ms.
more-
Green.
One more question, please.
Go for it.
I hope it's Lieutenant. I hope I mute
Captain,
that.
it's okay.
Captain,
You call me
I
whatever you-
apologize. I apologize. You said 12 out of 14. How many total are we going to have, darling?
18 per the state number, but we'd like to have 20. But 18 is what's going to be funded for the state.
At any time, are any of these SROs that are not actively in the school working, are they going to be available to help in the jail bins that technically, if I remember my numbers correctly, we don't have enough?
Yeah, not to say that they wouldn't be available for that, but in summertime, when there's a big break, 2 weeks of that summertime will be SRO school training and in-house training that they have to be able to continue to be post-certified. So there's half of a month gone. A month and a half beyond that, we'll probably do a few things, catch up on some outstanding warrants, let them serve warrants, and if need be, they'll work wherever they gotta go. If we're short somewhere, then that's where we'll fill slots.
And also, we're going to require SROs, that's in the summertime when they're off, that's when they take their vacations. They don't take their vacations while they're working in the school system unless it's something that's an emergency.
For obvious reasons.
So that'll take up most of their summer, their training, their vacation time, and then we'll be able to utilize some of them in the FTO, riding with other officers, getting their field training hours in. But out of the 12 of the 14, like Captain said, is already post-certified. The 2 that is not post-certified, one has been in the past, but his time's run out. The other one is a 20-year military career. So we've worked hard to just to take any applicant, we're picking the right applicants for this position.
One more question. Have you got applications to fill that number of 18? at
Not,
this
not
time?
as many as we had when we first put it out. There's currently like 4 applicants awaiting for testing and not post-certified. So that's the problem, is why it's stalling a little bit now, because we'd love to have post-certified simply because of what they've already got and their training they've got. But we're kind of on a crunch too, because we need to fill those slots.
Thank you.
Question.
Yes.
So the ones that we're having to send to get certified, are we working out an agreement with them that if they come, after we send them the certification, they get that, they come to be SRO, after the first year, they decide to quit and go somewhere else?
3-year contract.
So they're signing a contract?
Yes.
Okay.
Good question.
Good deal. Any other questions? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion moved. Passes. Item 5C, the interlocal cooperation agreement for County School Resource Officer funding between the Hamblen County Board of Education and Hamblen County. Mr. Mayor.
Same concept. We tweaked the interlocal agreement that we had with the city and submitted it to the Board of Education. They approved it last week, and they've agreed to appropriate $800,000 a year for each of the next 2 years to cover startup costs of the SRO program. So, and then, as Captain Cribley talked about, hoping to there's 18 state grants is what we've received. And I think the school system is asking for 20 SROs, I think, and that, you know, they would pay for those extra 2. And so there's still some negotiation and working together, and this is a work in progress and will be for a couple of years as we get it fully staffed and fully implemented. But for these next 2 years, the school system is committing $800,000 to the program, to us, to help outfit and train who we have.
Have a motion?
Motion approved.
Mr. Doty, motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Harville. Don't think we've got any questions. Anybody? Now let's vote the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Go down to item 5D, Resource Conservation Technician position. Mr. Mayor.
Trish, will you bring that slideshow up? The Soil Conservation District came to us a few weeks ago and asking for to join a partnership with the federal and state government in supplying a position, helping partner in a new position with the Soil Conservation District, a resource conservation technician. And I mean, there's a job description that's in your packet for the position. And in the meeting that we had a week or so ago, what this person would be doing, and Sonia Ricker from Soil Conservation is here, and she's here to answer all the questions and correct me when I say something wrong, but it is to work with farmers and property owners in projects like this, and that they get federal grants to help improve their properties, and it also helps with our stormwater with part of the responsibilities of soil conservation is to try to improve the condition of our streams that run throughout the county. That's also one of the objectives of our stormwater department. So this kind of works hand in hand, and this is one of the strong aspects of this for us and for us to enter into this partnership. But this just kind of gives you an idea of some of the projects that this technician would be working on, working with the farmers and the property owners. To improve their property, improve water quality. And then here are the creeks and the streams throughout the county that their work would would impact and improve the quality of the water. And so, also, if you look at the job description, the last page of it are some items that our stormwater department added, some duties that would help with the stormwater tasks that we've been given by the state of Tennessee, and they're putting a little more pressure on us to get some things done. Tanya, you want to say?
We are currently in a staff shortage in our office. USDA provides us with district conservationists and soil conservationists, and one of our soil conservationists took a position in Knoxville. So we're trying to fill the void there. The USDA personnel, they handle Hamblen and Granger County. This person would be handling only Hamblen County. We have quite a bit of projects and quite a bit of funding from both federal and state government that would be on the ground in Hamblen County for water and soil conservation efforts. The person that we have in mind is a graduate of the University of Tennessee, and she's worked with us previously through AmeriCorps, and she's currently an Earth Team volunteer, and we're hoping to bring her on board and get boots on the ground to continue projects just like this. We currently have $1.1 million in federal funding for projects and $288,000 in state funds for projects. That's just for Hamblen County. So with the staff shortage, it would be beneficial to all of Hamblen County to have this person employed.
One thing about is financially, the federal and state government will supply $21,000 toward this position, and then the county would have the rest. And the office, the Soil Conservation Office, and Sonia, administrator of it, is reorganizing some of their work time for some of their people, and to maximize and reduce really what we would be responsible for as far as money goes. We can fund this position starting September 1st for the rest of this fiscal year with no additional funding at all for soil conservation. And then next year, depending on COLAs and that kind of thing, we may need some additional funding. But for the first couple of years anyway, we can operate and add this position for no additional funding.
Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Richard. Do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Howell, any questions?
Well, yes, sir. To me, it's a win-win. The farmers win, and the stormwater issue that we have, and we just passed that a couple of months ago, all that issue. So it's a win-win, and welcome to the club of not enough employees. Goodness. So, and you've got a Jim Dandy waiting on us, right? If that person will step forward. All righty. Thank you.
I know when we had that meeting, the page that's up here just got my attention, and I shared it with them. I mean, you see things on there that are going to some of our streams, and those streams are going into our lake, and we have recreational and drinking and that sort of thing. So this is a no-brainer. I mean, it really is. Anyone else wish to say anything? All right, let's vote the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Mr. Chairman, I abstain. I serve on that board and serve as Secretary and Treasurer, so I abstain for that reason, wanted to put on the record.
Very good, thank you. Motion passes. We'll move down to item 5E, Morristown Hamblen Healthcare System Memorandum of Understanding. Mr. Mayor.
This is a memorandum we do every year with the hospital, and what it does basically is it allows them or permits them to participate in a low-cost pharmacy program. And what they do is, if you look in paragraph 3, the third whereas, for them to participate in the 340B program, they have to commit to provide health care services to low-income individuals who are not entitled to Medicare or Medicaid. So they're committing to serve low-income population, and we're committing to accept that, and then therefore they can participate in this low-cost pharmacy program. So this is something we do every year.
Motion to approve. Thank you, Mr. Doty. We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second, Mr. Harvey. Any discussion? Let's vote the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 5F, memorandum of understanding between City of Morristown and Hamblen County for the fiscal year 23 Edward Byrne Memorial JAG Program Award. Mr. Mayor.
This is a grant, the JAG grant program, which we share with the city, have for several years. And we used to share the money until it got to the point where things were costing so much that neither organization could buy much of anything with the grant money. So what we do now is we swap years with the full JAG grant. This year it's the City of Morristown's turn with the funds, and this is just an MOU with the City of Morristown expressing that agreement.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Doty, I need a second.
Second.
Mr. Harvey, any questions? Okay, let's vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 5G, a resolution of the County Commission of Hamblen County authorizing a rural tourism development grant application. Mr. Mayor.
In our budget, in the capital area of our budget, we have $35,000 in there to put a new roof on the amphitheater in Cherokee Park. Well, this, what we want to do is apply for a grant of $100,000, which would pay for that roof, pay for siding for the amphitheater, pay to paint the amphitheater, pay to put a new roof on Horner Daugherty Pavilion, and put siding on that, and it cost us $10,000. So this is just a request by us to apply for the grant, and then we'll go through the process, and hopefully we'll be awarded the grant.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion, Mr. Harville. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Long.
Commissioner Long, second. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, we'll vote the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 5H, a resolution authorizing Hamblen County to apply for an amount of $5,000 on the Tennessee Highway Safety Office sponsored high visibility grant. Mr. Mullins?
This is a grant from Tennessee Highway Safety. It's something that all the counties around us has done and we've not done in the past years. It's a $4,000 grant or $5,000 total. $4,000 of it is for DUI saturations, DUI checkpoints with Highway Patrol, Morristown City. That will pay for things, for equipment for that, and plus $1,000 of that will go for the overtime for the guys that's off duty to work the saturations.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Doty, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Richardson, thank you. Any questions for Sheriff Mullins? Let's vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Move down to item 5I. Number 1, Hamblen County Board of Education Budget Amendment Number 2, increase of $4,270,497.74. Ms. Anderson.
Thank you. This budget amendment is a request to budget 3 revenue streams of grant funding. $4 million, which is the largest portion. The commission allowed us to budget last year for CTE programs. It's the Innovative School Models Grant. And this is the funding that allowed us to hire 4 middle school health science teachers, our construction teacher, classroom expansions at West High, and the animal grooming lab at East High, and supplies and equipment for all CTE programs. Those funds were unspent at the end of last year, and so this is a request to rebudget that money to spend in this fiscal year. The second amount is $217,546,000. Those funds are from the Niswonger Foundation, and this will help our district provide before and after school tutoring for students. The last revenue stream is a carryover of our Safe Schools grants, $52,951.74. These were funds that were left over at the end of last fiscal year in grant funding, and these funds allow us to buy safety-related equipment for the schools. I'll be happy to answer any questions on that.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Doty, a second?
Second.
Mr. Harville, thank you. Any questions?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
This is, so this is that third grade tutoring, or?
It does help address the third grade law, retention law, yes, ma'am.
Okay, all righty, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, let's vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 5I2, Fund 101, Chancery Court, $8,140. Ms. Amanda Hale.
This budget amendment is for the clerk and master's office, Chancery Court. They needed to buy a new server this year for their office, and so the funds will be used from their reserved account from fees that they have collected in previous years. So this money moves that from fund balance to their equipment line.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Harville. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Howell. Do we have any questions for Ms. Hale? Let's vote the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion moves. Item 5I3, Fund 101, Circuit Court, $9,467.
This budget amendment for Circuit Court allocates the money for them to, there's a scanning process that they're going to be working on in Circuit Court, next-gen document scanning, and I think Ms. Teresa West spoke to you all about that during the budget process. But this money will move that from her reserve account into the other contracted services to cover the cost of the scanning.
Motion,
So moved.
Mr. Doty. Do I have a second?
Second.
Who was that? Mr. Long. Thank you, sir. Any questions? We'll vote the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 5I4, Fund 101, Sheriff's Department, $5,294.97.
Each year, the Sheriff's Department receives money from calendar proceeds, calendar funds. This year, could explain that better than me. But at the end of June, this amount is what was unspent of their calendar funds. And normally it's things that they can use at their discretion. And they've asked that that money be moved back into this year's budget, the unused part from last year. And that's what this means.
Motion?
So moved.
I'll take Mr. Doty and Mr. Harvey.
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Ms. Howell.
Yes, sir. What do you mean calendar fund? What is the?
We have
Those for a calendar.
departmental calendar that local businesses, they pay for it. Then the sheriff's department receives $7,000, and that's what I use for like recruitment brochures and stuff like that. Fingerprint cards for kids when we go into the elementary schools.
Yes.
That's where those are bought from.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Let's vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Motion passes. Item 5I5, Fund 122, Drug Control Fund, $500.
This budget amendment is related to a grant that the Sheriff's Department applied for and was the recipient of $500 for their K-9 officer Nexus. And so we received the money from the grant organization, and this will just allocate the money, half of it to veterinary services and half of it for food cost for the K-9 officer.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Doty, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Long?
That was
Mr.
Commissioner
Richardson? Thank you, sir. Any questions?
Yes, sir. Do we only have one K-9?
Yes.
Don't we want more?
They're about $80,000. We'd like to have another one.
Well, they're pretty scary. So, yeah, you're right. Okay. thank
Anyone
you.
else have a question? Kind of slammed the door on that, didn't it? $80,000. Wow. Okay. Let's vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that motion passes. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Doty.
Just real quick on this, before we close out the Finance Committee, I wanted to address all the different departments in our county, with the school system, the work done in the county mayor's office, what's been done through the sheriff's department with just grants this year. I know the school system one that just came in is in excess of $4 million, but when we look at just the sheriff's department, I brought the total up not long ago. It was over $470,000 they brought in grant funds. County mayor's office sought out and saw this $100,000 grant. Basically, we're getting a lot more work for a whole lot less money. We're gonna hold $25,000 in our bank and get $100,000 worth of work for 10. You know, it's I just want to thank you all and recognize the fact that you do go over and above and search this out, and it does save us a lot of money through the years. Thank you all.
Very good point. Thank you, Mr. Doty. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Hahn. Had a lot going on there.
A lot.
All right, we will now go to Chairman Doty of the Personnel Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I call the Personnel Committee to order. Any visitors wishing to address this committee about agenda items? Seeing none, we'll move forward. Item 3, old business, we have none. New business, item 4. 4A is approval of education pay submissions. You can see those in your book. We have 2 associates, one that received their bachelor and one their master's. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a bunch of them.
Commissioner Walker.
Walker.
We had Commissioner Warner was the motion, made the motion, and Commissioner Walker second.
Thank you.
Do we have any discussion of this? Hearing none. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 4B is approval of the longevity pay. We have 1 associate. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Holland. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Howell. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Doty. We'll now move into the Public Services Committee. Commissioner Richardson, Chairman Richardson, you're recognized.
Thank you, sir. Call the Public Services Committee to order, please. Anyone wishing to address the committee about agenda items only, you have 3 minutes, please. Seeing none, we'll move on. Have no old business. The new business, item 4A, Resolution 23, A resolution to amend the zoning map of Hamblen County, Tennessee by rezoning District 03, tax map 011, parcel 045.00 and 045.01, 5901 and 5915 Brights Pike, Russellville, Tennessee, 37860 from R1 to A1.
Yes, sir, and good evening to the commission. Planning staff did receive requests to rezone 5901 and 5915 Brides Pike from their current designation of R1, which is single-family residential, to A1, which is an agricultural district. Two parcels are adjacent and both contain residential structures. Both of the parcels, one being 10 acres and one just over 1.3 acres, the rezoning is being sought for both of the parcels in order to operate a non-profit equine therapy program. And due to the agricultural nature of this, staff believes it's better to be in an A1 than an R1 zone. Due to the proximity of A1 zoning on adjacent and nearby parcels along Brides Pike, staff recommended the approval of the rezoning request at the County Planning Commission at the August meeting, as did the County Planning Commission themselves. So they forwarded a vote to recommend to the County Commission. As you can see on the map in your packets, both these parcels are adjacent to A1 properties, both to the east and to the south. So I'd be happy to try to answer any questions.
Any questions? If
This
none,
on Sugar Hollow Road?
Brights Pike.
No, you got another, okay, I'm ahead of myself. You got one on Sugar Hollow Road coming out.
That's the next one, I think. Yeah.
I'll ask the question on that.
Sorry.
okay, if no questions, we'll take a motion this time.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Ahern, have a second.
I second.
Second by Mr. Hahn. Call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by like sign, the motion carries. Item 4B, Resolution 23, a resolution to amend the zoning map of Hamblen County, Tennessee by rezoning District 05, tax map 049, parcel 007.01, Maple Valley Road and South Sugar Hollow Road, Morristown, Tennessee 37813, from A1 to I1.
Yes, sir. This comes from property owners Joe and Charlotte Long. They have requested rezone their property, which sits at the northeast intersection of Maple Valley Road and Sugar Hollow Road, from their current designation of A1, which is agriculture, to I1, which is industrial. The parcel is currently vacant and contains a little over 12 acres. The applicant is requesting this rezoning in order to operate a concrete pumping truck business. It does contain I1 zoning on the adjacent properties to the northwest. And if you've been up and down Sugar Hollow Road, in the past few years, there are definitely similar uses along that road. Due to the proximity of this I-1 district and its similar uses, staff recommended approval of this request, as did the Morristown Regional Planning Commission at their August meeting. And this piece of property is in the urban growth boundary area, which required it go to the Morristown Regional Planning Commission instead of the Hamblen County Planning Commission. And I'd be happy to try to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Laura, this land that you're talking about, at one time, the Longs gave that to the Humane Society, Animal Control.
No, I think this is way south of this. This property here,
It's right exactly where that pumping station's at. I saw it today.
I thought this was closer to the Episcopal church and school out there. That,
This is not the property that turns and goes down by Stewart Furniture Company right before you get to M&M Sauce?
no, sir.
Oh.
That is inside the city, and that is currently, I think the company that's going there is called Rock Solid.
Yeah.
It will be a concrete plant.
That is already approved through the city?
Yes, sir, it is.
That's in urban growth?
The rock solid concrete plant on the old animal shelter property is not in the UGB, it's inside the city.
Inside the city.
But this request tonight is inside the UGB.
Do they have sewer there yet?
I couldn't tell you. I would hope so. I don't know.
It was close.
It was close, yeah.
Okay, well, I thought that, so that pumping station's already been approved and everything.
Yes, sir.
Well, I looked at this and I got to thinking, I said, why are we bringing this up now? Because if it's in urban growth, then the city's already approved it through planning, and this wouldn't come before the Hamblen County Planning Commission. And yet they get fixed and start pumping concrete, and now they come and ask permission to do it.
There's a lot of concrete related.
It's pretty hard. I looked at these pictures. Of course, I just got this today, and it come out Friday. It's pretty hard for me to look at that and tell where that's at, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sure is.
Any other questions?
Anybody pick that out, I'd like to show me.
Any other questions? If not, we have a motion.
Motion?
Have a motion from Mr. Hahn, second.
Second.
Second from Ms. Ahern. Any discussion? Not, we'll have the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, thank you, Chairman Richardson. We will now move straight into the Bulk Waste Study Committee. I will call once again on Chairman Horner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I call the Bulk Waste Study Committee to order. Anyone wishing to address this committee may do so at this time.
Noe Joe Stevens Road. I hope that as part of this campaign, or as a major part of this campaign, you will have stickers that tell people to sort their garbage and bulk waste and of course, trees and limbs. You know, the little one-off things like, you know, here's a little sticker or here's an ad in the newspaper one time and it's done, or an ad that you hear on the radio one time. If you happen to be listening, you would hear that. There needs to be something more permanent, and that would be a permanent sticker on every trash can. Everybody will see that just about once a week, and that will remind them constantly, not just once in a while. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address? If not, I'm sorry.
What are you gonna do after you get them educated to clean up their act? What are you gonna do when they don't? Huh? Because there's gonna be some that won't. I know. I tried to get Road Junction cleaned up for 7 years and got tired of it, finally moved out. But you all wouldn't do anything to help either.
Anyone else? If not, item 3A, there's no old business. Item 4A, new business, the enforcement of violations of bulk waste regulations. Mayor.
As your seat, there should be piece of paper that says bulk waste regulation enforcement. And what this is just the enforcement process that we want to implement through codes enforcement. The top of the page, it talks about the County Powers Act gives county governments authority to adopt and enforce regulations like the ones that you guys passed in May regarding curbside bulk waste pickup, which in May, becoming effective September 1st, it defined bulk waste, and then no residential trash, recycling, brush, tree trimming, bulk should be deposited in the ditch line in violation of stormwater regulations. That was passed in the stormwater enforcement resolution that you passed a couple of months ago. The sanitation department will not pick up bulk waste at the curbside that is not separated from brush, tree trims, and residential garbage. Sanitation department will not pick up construction debris that is deposited at the curbside or in the ditch line. And the property owner is responsible for disposing of that waste at the landfill. The penalties for violations will start at $50 a day. The violation will start the day the citation is issued by codes enforcement or law enforcement. So that is the penalty. It'll be $50 a day. The enforcement process will be this. Violations will be reported to codes enforcement by the public, by sanitation crews, by law enforcement. We will have, for public complaints, we will have a dedicated phone number, and it's listed there, 423-585-2751, that will go to a voicemail box. And then our codes enforcement officer will check that daily and then start an investigation into each of the complaints and take photographs, prepare written reports, and if it is a violation, if he determines it is a violation, he will issue a notice of violation letter to the property owner, giving him 10 days to dispose of the waste properly. If the property owner fails to comply, then codes enforcement will issue and serve a citation, which will include a general sessions court date. And the start date for the $50 fine, again, will start on the day of the citation is issued. Codes enforcement is to instruct the property owner that if the violation is corrected within 24 to 48 hours, the citation will be dismissed with the payment of $17.75 court cost. If it's not corrected, then the citation will proceed through the court system. So that's, and then the county attorney will represent the county in sessions court. So that's the process that we want to pursue, and we discussed that with the county attorney, codes enforcement, Chairman Horner, and so we've worked through this process. This is where we want to start, and then see how things go, and if we have to modify it, we can do that. Questions?
Yes, sir. So, oh my golly, here's a mess. And so he comes and looks at it, and then they're giving notice of the violation, like, you shouldn't be doing that. You got 10 days to fix it. Is that right?
Correct.
But and then the money business doesn't start until the 11th day,
Correct.
Okay.
If they don't clean it up, yes.
if they don't, yeah. But if they get it all squared away within the 10 days,
Then there's no citation issued.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, quick question. Is this list available online in our packets for the public to see first
So we're
thing?
waiting on you to act on it.
Okay, second thing, and we had this debate the last time they had it, because where my driveway is located, they told me to call, in this committee, they told me to call Mr. Poole. Mr. Poole told me because of where my driveway was located, I couldn't pilot either way and back out safely, or any of my children for that point. He told me to put it in the ditch line. So my question to you is, am I gonna get a citation when I put it in the ditch line like I've been instructed to do?
There'll be an investigation of all complaints, and so situations like that will be considered.
So I might as well get ready to be investigated.
Sure.
Okay.
All of us.
Bill, let me ask you a question. On this, we might need to define, because that's something we asked about earlier, construction waste. We may need to kind of make it a little broader, what we mean by construction waste. Because to me, it may mean one thing, to someone else, it may mean something else.
Piece of sheetrock laying there, who put it there? The landowner or the guy that tore the sheetrock down, who owns the construction company? There's a difference.
Yes.
But who'll be responsible for it is the property owner.
If the property owner put it there,
No, the property owner.
then Barry will pick it up. Barry will pick it up if the property owner puts it there.
If that's not,
Construction waste. If
that's
the
not the
property
intent.
owner cuts a tree down himself, he can put it next to the road and Barry will pick that brush up. But if a contract carrier comes in there and cuts that tree down and piles it beside the road, he won't do it.
Right.
Two things, you gotta look at each one, and brush,
Or what happens, Wayne, what would you suggest then if Mr. Handyman business or Miss Handyman business removed and renovated the bathroom at one location, brought the debris back and put it at the side of the road at his house?
at his house?
At his house. That happens.
Oh, sure, I'm sure it will. Well,
So what's your suggestion on that?
That's a good one. We've got the same problem out where I live now. Them trees have been laying out for 3 months. We've not picked them up, and I don't blame Barry. I wouldn't pick them up either. They hauled them down at Cedar Hill boat dock and hauled them out there on West Croxdale Road and dumped them. They're out there, stick it out in the road about like that. I just worry about somebody hitting him, but I just got to think, I don't need to worry about that. I got too much on my mind. I'll just let somebody crowd that guy off the road, he climbs into that big old tree that's been laying there, then he can see the man that owns the property.
Well, I have an additional question. In District 14, not too long ago, Mr. Carlisle's mother-in-law, from my understanding, gave me a call. Somebody pulled in and basically unloaded going down the road. She sent me pictures. Now, thank God Barry took care of it, okay? But my point is, whether it was what I call trash or whether it was construction trash, how do you protect the property owner from somebody doing this that they're unaware of? I mean, not every property owner is right there where they can see what is done, especially the elderly.
I think that's what the investigation's for.
Also, what about, I mean, I hope we're telling these tree cutting folks and the hammer and nail or handyman people that, okay, there is no setting it. A guy just did a project for me, and he said, I always have a trailer, I always put it there, and I go to the landfill. And I said, well, you know what that makes you? And he said, what? And I said, responsible. And we need to say to the hammer nailer, you better be responsible for that. And the same thing with the tree cutting. It's, you took on that job. There is not your road or, I mean, your house or in front of the tree cutting where you cut it. It's the responsible thing, and what we're expecting is that you will take it to the landfill.
Bill, are we gonna follow this similar to what the city does? So when the city, and I've got some property in the city, when they find you, say, for this, they put a note on your door. That's your notice of,
There you go.
how are we gonna give the notice?
That's a good question.
There's going to be a letter. That's the first.
Right, but are we mailing that letter to them, or are we just sticking it on their door?
Mailing it.
Mailing it. So there's gonna be a little bit more time. The next question is, are we gonna have the signs that they do with the city saying this property or this is code enforcement? That's the question.
We've discussed that, yes.
Okay. And that's just because if they say, well, I didn't get the letter, you know, if I come home and I see a sign in my front yard, like a real estate sign that says code enforcement, I know there's something for me to call and find out what happened.
That's been.
I mean, just, these are curiosity things. And I think with you sometimes with the handyman, I think what happens sometimes with that is people will come and say, I'll fix your bathroom, and if I can throw it at the road, I can give you this rate. And if I have to haul your debris off, then I'm gonna have to charge you for hauling it off. And that's where we get people to say, well, just throw it at the road, because we're trying to save $5 or $10 on our end.
You know, we've got to remember during all this is the reason we're doing this. And the reason we're doing this is try to improve our service so that we can become more regular as far as bulk waste and tree trimming pickup. And instead of, you know, it being once a month or every 6 weeks or whatever, because we're overwhelmed, we're trying to get it where folks aren't taking advantage of the service and we can get on a more regular schedule and it become a better service. That's the whole purpose behind this, not to try to, get somebody, I got you, here's a new rule and you didn't obey it, and now we're gonna fine you. That's not the purpose.
I think too, each of us have people who have rental property in our districts, and when the tenant moves out, they just dump everything at the road, and that should fall to the renter, not the county. And next they'll be wanting us to cut their grass, so just.
Hey, Bill, is that Mr. Handyman? Is that the guy that lives up on
I was just saying, Mr. I wasn't talking about anybody in particular.
I know what you're saying, but they do take it.
Some do, some don't.
But it's like if I tear out a toilet, I take it out, I can lay it down there in the trash, and Barry will pick it up. But if a plumber takes it out and puts it down there, we find out he did that, he's responsible for it. But the overall person responsible for it is the man that owns that house.
Correct.
That hired the man to do it, and you gotta tell him. That's why we've got that trash out on West Knoxville.
Well, and that's.
This guy got it out of there, he loaded up the truck and hauled it down Carson Rounds down there in Cedar Hills and put it on property that he owns. And I guess he can do that. There's no rule that says he can't. But he can sure enough get it out of right away on the road, and I think that's supposed to be about 8 or 10 foot, and it's sticking out the road out like that. He's got a problem there.
But
I think
and that's my thing, when we say like a toilet or water heater, we just need to say no construction waste whatsoever. How often do we do a toilet? Once every 2? Would it hurt as a homeowner for us to take one toilet to the landfill, or to take a water heater to the landfill if we're putting it in ourselves? I mean, rather than, because if we say, well, I can put a toilet out there, then we're leaving it into interpretation that I got a plumber that puts my toilet in. How are we gonna tell who put the toilet in? I mean, that's why we've gotta just say, well, and that's why I think we should just say no construction waste whatsoever, which would be toilets, and that's why if we put a brief, put it out there, this is what we're calling construction waste. Bricks, that kind of stuff. And Barry, you know as well as I do, there's people that throw 2x4s out there. There's a difference between 1 or 2 2x4s, and you tore your garage down and you throw it at the road.
Is there anything wrong with putting 2x4s with the brush?
I would say no, because you can burn it.
I would agree. But, if you got a large acreage, a large tract of land, and all of a sudden you drive out one morning, somebody's dumped this on your property, this construction waste. Not sure, it's not really.
Well, but that's when we should be calling Chad and saying, Chad, somebody's just littered in my parking lot.
Well, that's where the code enforcement officer will do he'll do the investigation.
It's Tommy, not Jeff.
I mean, and that would be one of those things, if he come out there and we could legit prove that it wasn't from our home, somebody dumped it there. That may be where he has to get with you and say, Barry, this was illegally dumped. We've made a note of it. But we should also, if we see somebody dumping it, and we've all seen it, if you've got a neighbor that says, this guy always backs up to my driveway and dumps off this brush off the back of his truck, and that should be no different than me going out down the road and throwing a Coke bottle out of my car and throwing it in your yard. That's littering. That's something that the police department should be able to handle.
I want to ask you something, Barry. I got some property out there on 25, and I had a place no dumping. And this guy from up on Oak Street, he come out there and dumped a bunch of 2x4s, 2x6, metal, these lights that's up in the ceiling, the boxes that come in. He left where he got it at Home Depot, the day he bought it, what his name was and where he lives. So I got him, right? Wrong. I turned it into the city. City come out there. I had to get a hold of the city twice to find out something about it. He said, well, the codes man said, well, we went to the man and talked to him about it. He said that he didn't do it, that the guy that he hired did it. I said, well, the guy that you hired's name's not on that piece of paper. You're the only one I got. So what do you do there? My trash still laying there. I've been there for 2 years. It does no good to tell them.
They're gonna figure out a way to make this confusing. You're gonna put a lot of them on top of it.
Yeah.
Amen.
He's gonna have to use a lot of judgment, and then he's gonna get in court. The judge is gonna say, oh, I know you've done the best you can with it, but are things clear here? I mean, can we easily identify who's responsible, and he's gonna say, well, anyway,
Well, I had an incident where they were changing out carpet with some laminate. So the guy who was doing it, he put the carpet at the edge of the, where you would pick it up. And I said, this is in the city. I said, the rule in the city is you can put it out Wednesday before recycle. I said, recycle was last week. I said, I'll bring my truck and we'll load it. So the guy helped me load it the next day. And then I took it to the landfill, and they have big bins, and I just hauled it out of there. But I knew the rule that the recycle is on Friday, every other week, so that means there's one Wednesday you can put it out Wednesday night, Thursday, and then they'll pick it up. But having a deadline versus being out there, because I told him, I said, you missed the deadline. I said, I can't have this on this property, so.
I hear that we're gonna make the property owner responsible, and then I hear that we're gonna make the contract responsible. So I'm hearing two different.
No, I think we said the property, in the root of it, it's always gonna be the property owner. Because it's your property, it's your responsibility to clean it up. I think where the contractor come in is when we said somebody dumped it on your driveway. They come, dispose it. And that's where, it's gonna come back just like you said. It's like anything. If we don't enforce it, where when they go to court, the judge stands behind, this is the rule, just like with Wayne. If I've got somebody's trash in my driveway with somebody else's name in it and a different address that's not mine, what's the odds that it's my trash, that I went to their house, picked up their trash, brought it to my house and dumped it out in my yard?
I agree, you need to clearly identify where construction is.
Yeah. And that's where we're just gonna have to enforce it. And maybe after we see 2 or 3 people get enforced and fined for it, the word's gonna get out is that we're not gonna tolerate it. I mean, if the reward is greater than what we fine them, they're gonna continue to do it.
One thing to consider there, the fine is the fine. We can't do anything about that. It's $50 a day. However, we all agree that this is a starting point. There's going to be growing pains, and we're going to have to, as a county, start monitoring one another. We're going to have this, just as Barry said. I think we'll have that illegal dump. That's where code enforcement hopefully can get and do that investigation and not charge that owner that it's been illegally dumped upon. That's what my desire is. But this is a start. This is going to be a my goodness, this will be
a work in progress.
Yeah, it's a work in progress. I don't know what, we don't have all the answers right now.
No.
As we grow into this, we've let it grow out of control, and here we go. We're going to try to rein it in. As Bill said, the mayor said, this is not about revenue. This is just about getting control of a problem. And we've got to start somewhere. Chairman, we need a motion. I know. You ready for a motion there? All right, wait. What is the recommendation here? Do we want to consider this or?
Move forward with this list, and if we need to tweak it going forward, we can.
All right.
I need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Got a motion? Do I hear a second? Got a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Excuse me, one sec. One sec. Joe, I'm sorry, yeah,
Joe, you're not
okay,
on
we
there.
got Bobby. All right, we got Bobby. That's good. We're good, we're clear.
Okay. Got a motion, I need a second now.
Bobby.
Bobby, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's all I have.
Chairman, if
Yes, sir.
we could, I left off a couple of items, well, one item for sure that Barry asked me to put on finance. If we can kind of backpedal and go back to
Okay,
that.
let's open, yes, sir, we can do that. Let's go back to open up Finance Committee. Chairman Hahn, you're recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Barry's asking for, right now in our purchasing guidelines is the department head, anything under $1,000, the department head can just purchase it. Doesn't have to get quotes or anything like that, can just go purchase it. Now, what Barry has asked is that, at least for the highway department, probably it'd be smart to do it just countywide so there's no confusion, is because the cost of items, and especially parts in his case, is that that threshold be raised to $5,000, from $1,000 to $5,000, and that would make it more convenient for him. I can let him.
For instance, the $5,000, we want to keep it at $5,000. You're looking at filters, what they call dock filters, they're $2,000. Turbo actuators, $2,100. You know, a lot of those items are purchased. You graduate a little bit onto items like turbocharger, $6,000. The cylinder for a garbage truck to push that wall, compact the garbage, $8,000. And really, the threshold of the $10,000 would help more than $5,000, because you've got a lot of things that fall in between $5,000 and $10,000. And I'm not trying to get out of quoting things. I understand that quoting items, you save money and you're careful how you purchase. It's just that a lot of these items are specialty items, so you can only get them at a few places. And so, let's say you can get this item at 3 places, and you quote it, and you come, you know, a little time goes by, and there's another item that you quote the same 3 places, and the same guy's getting it every time. He's got the low price. Well, when you hit the same guys, which is what we do a lot because they're the only ones got the part, the guy that's winning all the time is really the only one that's going to give you a price right quick. The others are going to say, let me get back to you on that. They never get back to you. And all that time, the truck's sitting still, and it needs to be on the road. So this threshold for $1,000 works if you're buying office supplies. But when you need to get trucks back out on the road, this don't work. And so I know it's a big stretch from $1,000 to $10,000, but it would really help if we didn't have to spend a lot of time calling and while the truck's sitting still trying to get quotes on parts. We've got somewhat of an older fleet with both departments. Now, we do have some new garbage trucks, but for the most part, we got older fleets, and a lot of these parts have to be bought quite often. So that's why I'm asking. What are you proposing?
Have a deadline on that?
Barry, what are you
Send it out to
proposing?
3 people?
10 or 5,000? I'm proposing 10. Okay. Do we have a motion for 10,000? Mr. Long, do we have a second?
No, I didn't motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I've got a question.
I've got a question.
But we gotta
too.
get on the table first.
Okay.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion. Mr. Cutshaw, do we have a second?
I'll do a second.
All right, Mr. Huntsman, second. All right, now, Mr. Long, your question, please.
Are you saying you're gonna do an informal bid up to 10,000, right?
No. Right now, we're looking at quoting anything over 1,000, of
So
course.
We're not gonna do any informal bid?
Well, if it's for a Mack engine, there's only one place you can get it. I mean, we'll be glad to sit down with you, Rodney. If you got some parts you know we can save money on, know where to get them, we'll be glad to sit down with you. But a lot of these,
I think auditor would require, Mayor, am I not right?
Well, it depends on what our policy is.
Okay.
Like right now, anything over 1,000, up to 25,000, we have to get quotes. And then over 25 is a formal bid process. That's where we are right now.
I'd like to ask a question.
Ms. Howell, go ahead.
When I went over to the city garage and they were showing me where they have all their stoplights, and he said, and I said, well, golly, you have a lot here. He said, we have enough for 2 intersections. So, you know, if the storm comes or something bumps into okay. 10,000 is pretty big money, and I understand because I got to see some of those parts and they were very expensive. But I would like to think that instead of having that truck there that you would say, okay, I'm going to buy 2 of these parts so that, you know, whatever that filter, you know, and this one, kind of like the stoplight guy. Then you'd say, okay, I've got one, let's get him back in business and we'll get, you know, now that's in a perfect world, but.
and we do stock parts that are used a lot.
Okay. But I'm kind of curious about the informal bid, you know, like I would check with Walmart and Dollar or something.
Well, you got bidding versus quoting.
Yes, sir.
There's two different animals. So if you go to bidding, that's going to take even more time.
Well, that's.
Now, we can, you know, if we can, in the same day, if we can call 3 places to get a quote on a part.
There you go.
We're okay. But if 2 guys say, well, I'll get back to you, and it's Monday and they don't get back to you and you look around and it's Friday.
Yes, sir.
There that truck sits waiting on that part.
Okay.
So,
The difference in the informal and formal, the informal is you calling and getting 3 parts, 3 prices. If you have a part that is sole source, I always attach that sole source letter to that informal bid.
Right.
Because I don't want the auditor, you know, that's the way I do it. Now, you're talking about a formal bid, which it would take more time, because you have to put it out, you know, in the paper and everything. I was talking about an informal bid.
you're talking about a bid and I'm talking about a quote. Are they the same thing?
They're the same thing, but you do it on the informal bid sheet, and then if it's a part that it's Mac on it, you get a sole source letter from that dealer and you attach it to it and you're cleared, you know. You understand what I'm saying?
Mr. Doty, you ask a question?
I can see 5,000, maybe, but 10,000 I think is a little bit of a stretch for me. I understand Commissioner Howell's point about stocking parts, but as with everything, when you stock parts, it requires revenue. And that revenue, where you have to buy it up front, it's sitting there, and I deal with that on a regular basis with the maintenance. If that truck goes out of service and you've got that cylinder sitting there, chances of it fitting on another one is slim to none. So you've just got something you paid, you said the cylinder's $8,000, $8,000 for, that can't be used. You might be able to find somebody that can use it out somewhere, but you're not gonna get a new price for it. So that revenue stream is what's gonna hit you to begin with. But, I mean, the 5,000 I can kind of see, but the 10, I mean, the times you replace a turbo or something like that, that's not a day job. That's a
5,000 would help a lot.
but that's a drawn out thing, and
Make an amendment, Thomas.
so I moved to amend the 10,000 down to 5,000. Make a motion.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second on an amendment to move it from 10,000 to 5,000. Mr. Neesmith, have you got something?
Barry, If you're sending that bid out to 3 different people, one gives you a price and the other two don't get back with you for another week, don't you think you need to just shut them off? Say, hey, you gotta let me know back at 8 o'clock in the morning if you gonna bid on this or not. There's no need to play with it. He's trying to sell you something. He needs to speed up his acting and get your price. Either call me and say, here's your price, I can't do it.
Fill out the paperwork accordingly.
Huh?
Put it on the quote that you asked him to call
Yeah.
back and he did.
Yeah.
Does that work, Amanda? We can do that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on an amendment to the 10,000 to move to 5,000. Any more discussion? All right, let's have a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
So that's for the garbage and highway, right? That's, you
The
got
motion-
big trucks in both departments.
The motion and the
Yes,
request I
yes.
heard from the county mayor was for all departments
Well,
on the county.
yeah, I didn't know are we taking it up for everybody?
I thought that's what he said.
Yeah, I thought that was what it was too.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
So, Chairman Hahn, we have a amendment that is passed now. Vote the original motion,
Okay, we'll vote the original motion now,
which is now
As amended.
amended.
which is amended. So we'll vote that. Would you explain that, please?
Well, we had a motion on the floor that we had a motion and a second for 10,000. The
Right.
motion was amended to 5,000. Now that was passed, so now we vote the original motion to pass, allowing up to $5,000.
Okay. We'll vote now. I'm totally confused. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? That motion passes.
Would y'all consider looking at these driveways where people's driveways wash out in the road and making a policy on that, how we deal with that and what the fine might be? Because it's a big problem.
Don't we have one?
I don't
now?
have the authority to do anything with folks that allow it to happen.
What?
Right, didn't this come out 3 or 4 years ago? We got a policy on that.
That could probably go under public services, and we'll take a look at that, Barry. We can add that. We'll look at that, getting that on the agenda for discussion next month.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yep.
All right. All minds clear in finance? Mayor, you good? Okay. Before we get going, I need your indulgence a moment, commissioners. Oh, my bad. I have failed to remember that one. Thank you. I had it covered up. Chairman Doty of the Calendar Rules, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I call the Calendar and Rules Committee meeting to order. Do we have anyone wishing to address this committee? May do so at this time. Seeing none. Item 3, old business, we have none. Item 4A is a review of the regular calendar items with the addition of the $5,000 discretionary purchasing by the department heads and the bulk waste regulation enforcement, which will require a new header under the bulk waste committee.
Yes, sir.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Holmes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ahern. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We have item 4B, which is a review of the consent calendar items. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Horner. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hone. Any discussion? Seeing, hearing none. All those in favor of approval, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
My apologies, Chairman Doty. That concludes our committee meeting, but your indulgence, please, Commissioners. what we're gonna do, I am gonna announce a new formation of a new committee. Each commissioner will be a member of this committee. We've yet to set the chair and the vice chair. However, the committee will be Camper Study Committee to take up regulations, including but not limited to what we have going on in our county, living in campers and possible campground regulations. That will be the idea of this committee, so we can pinpoint a situation that's growing every day in our county. It's becoming a serious problem. So we're going to set aside a day in the near future. I don't know exactly when. The formation of the committee is today. Each committee, everybody will be on. But we'll probably set aside a special call meeting to bring together this body and possibly planning to be a part of this, our code enforcement officer, anybody that can bring us information so we can take this up and try to dive in and help resolve the situation that we have. Is that understood? Now, Commissioner Green is asked to speak for just a moment. Commissioner Green.
Thank you, sir. My first question is, I had a few concerns. First of all, about the wheel tax. We had a problem in our schools less than a year ago where we had children that could not graduate because they could not get their lunches paid. For me, if you have to make a difference between tags and paying your children's lunch, $23 is a big whack. That's the first thing. Second thing, this bulk waste. It needs to be clarified better than what it is. I know I was told I could put it in the ditch line, and I don't want to have to go through investigation. Let's be brutally honest. I get enough scrutiny otherwise, so I don't want to go there. Thirdly, I sent you an email regarding your comment during the February meeting to Miss Noe regarding her profanity. To me, you represented the whole county commission. So I've listened to the tape. I'd like to know what the profanity is. Okay. And I think as commissioners, we owe Hamblen County citizens to know exactly what we're accusing our citizens of. So I look forward to an answer. I had not gotten anything back from you. I checked my email before I left home, and I don't feel like it's asking too much to get an answer. It leaves citizens in limbo, and that's not fair.
I can get started for you if you'd like to hear.
I'd love to hear what was said.
Number one, that question was answered, Ms. Noe, since you brought up the name. No one has asked me other than yourself and Ms. Noe to identify. I've not heard from anyone else in the public. I've simply asked Ms. Noe, please refrain from profanity. So since we're doing that, I asked her to refer herself to the committee. There's nothing that's not transparent here. It's on a video. And maybe it's your arbitrary thought that there was nothing said. I deemed that there was. And identified it's on the video. I would refer you to the January 2023 commission meeting, and if you disagree, that's fine. I see the point is dropped. It's no need. You're taking up valuable time of this body for nothing. There's no charges. It was a simple statement. Please do not refrain. Ma'am, you're out of order. You are out of order. Sit down or remove yourself. No, ma'am, I do not. Yes, and you are coy. If we shall, each commissioner can review the tape yourself.
Okay.
Each citizen in this county can review the tape or the recording.
Sir, I reviewed the tape. And the word that I caught was chicken. Now, I was raised on a farm.
Yeah.
I do know what a chicken eats.
I've spent
But
enough
that's
on
not
this. I have
profanity.
answered my question. Chicken was not the profanity. No, ma'am.
Well, there was nothing else said. I even put it
That's
on
fine.
the speaker.
That is
sir.
your opinion. I've had others to tell me. In fact, it was after that meeting that I was told by a commissioner sitting there what was said. So there, I reviewed the tape. And that's enough said. I'm done with the subject.
Well, for the sake of transparency, I
Sake
think
of transparency, it is on the video. I refer you to the January 2023
Yes, sir.
commission meeting. Public
Yes, sir.
comments.
But for the sake of transparency, sir, you need to be plain enough to tell us exactly what it is, or you need to be man enough to apologize.